We've got a really great program prepared for you today, and our objective, as always, is to provide you with really useful information and lots of great takeaways to help you grow your exports and your international business successfully. First of all, I'm going to jump through a few points on housekeeping. So do know that this is a webinar. It is one in a series that are all focused on helping you grow your exports and business internationally. If you want to check out www.iptpartners.com/resources and webinars, you can see the list there going forward 2 or 3 months. We've got a very exciting program lined up for the weeks and months ahead of us. On average, we're doing, I think we're doing about 2 webinars per month, and they're always focused, as I say, to help you grow your business internationally. As always, the format is brief. We try to keep this to 30 minutes. We keep it to 30 minutes with a brief introduction by myself. I will then hand over to Susanna Hardy. Susanna Hardy, Director for Europe for IBT Partners. And today's expert speaker is Michael Hawksley. He's our Online Business Director, and Michael is based over in our Paris office. And he will be talking all about digital marketing for exporters. Do know that we will be conducting polls. There will be 4 polls, so please participate. We'll be flagging them up. They'll be on your screen. We'd love to have your opinion, your insight, and your views. There will be questions at the end. On your panel, you can see questions there at the bottom right-hand side. Please click the plus box. It'll open it up, and you can send us lots of questions. If for some reason we don't get around to answering your question during the webinar at the end, do know that we'll be picking them up towards the end of the week and then responding. There is a chat box. Please use it. Again, we welcome chat. It is great to have some communications, and we can have some conversations there. At the end of the webinar, there will be a brief survey on digital marketing for exporters. Please don't hesitate to complete that. And finally, do know that on Friday you will receive in your email box a recording and to the slide deck here of the webinar that we're about to jump on into. So as I say, we're very excited to take this opportunity, and I would like to take this opportunity to just say 2 words on IBT Partners. Do know IBT Partners is a private company. We're a firm of online business developers. We have offices in the United Kingdom, in London, where Susanna is based, in Germany, in France, where Michael is based, and in the US. We've been in business for over 15 years, providing online international services. Our core activity, it's all about helping companies grow their exports and business internationally. The internet came along and it changed the whole export rule book, and so as a function of that, we've been modifying our services to enable us to use the web and e-commerce to help you grow your exports and your business internationally. And so that sits alongside our digital marketing for exporting webinar today. 2 words on our host presenter, Susanna. Susanna is IBT Partners Director for Europe. Susanna is very international. Susanna has lived and worked in the US and across many European countries. And Susanna has 20+ years of experience helping companies grow their business internationally. Speaking of Michael, Michael is IBT Partners Online Business Director. And Michael has some 25+ years of experience in web agency work, building and marketing websites internationally, working on e-commerce sites. I can only say that knowing Michael and knowing Michael's management of clients, he does so very, very successfully, and his knowledge and insight I think will be great fun, because you're going to get some real insight today. So without any more ado, I'm going to be handing you over now to Susanna, and Susanna will be taking us away to the next stage. Susanna.
Thank you very much, John, and I'd also like to say, what a pleasure it is to be here, and let's just get started right away. Here's basically what we're going to be talking about. Let me just flip this slide, and then we'll talk about, what we're talking about, localized websites for local marketing. And we'll just give a very broad, very quick overview of what that means, and then get right down into digital marketing strategies and then some of the nitty-gritty parts about the right channels to be using and local websites and social media and tools for measuring it all as well. And I think what we've done really now is interesting. We've curated a lot of the questions we get, the key questions we get from our clients and from our business partners, and really tried to address the most frequently asked questions and some of the harder questions in this overview. Again, as John said, this is very much a, it's a big picture thing. It's a digital marketing for international exporting. We have run other webinars where we've talked specifically about specific markets like the U.S. or France or South America, whatever. So, but I think that this is a great starting place for really accessing the digital marketing place. Right, so here's one of our very first questions. Michael, I hope you're ready, all these questions. The very first question we frequently get from clients, it's right at the beginning of it, is, do I actually need a localized website? Do I need to have, websites that are in markets? Michael?
Hi, Susanna. Greetings to everyone. For us, that is really the starting point, and the answer for me is if you are only focusing on English-speaking market areas, if your client base is only English-speaking and you have no local competitors, then you can probably get away with only doing it in English. But that's not the case for most companies. Most companies will be marketing to areas where they have different languages, their competitors have a strong foothold, and they need to build up both their trust and their sort of foundation before they can start to sell in there. And the easiest way that we have found with our experience is to start by building your international websites, targeting your markets, and building up the trust that really is the foundation of them building the business. So your localized website is the foundation for your ongoing marketing.
Michael, I love it. That's very interesting, and in which case that brings us on to a first poll. Can I jump in and impose a poll at this stage?
Go for it, yes.
Here we go. So launching, I'm launching a poll right now. So do you have localized websites for your export market? So please, everybody out there, please jump on board. Let us know. Share your opinions with us. So 59% are saying yes, 35% are no, 16% are saying thinking about it. Well, there we are. I'm going to shut this poll down in a few seconds time. That's very interesting. Actually, there is some late polling there. 40% say yes, 40% say no, and 20% are saying thinking about it. Thank you all very much. Michael, back to you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Michael. So clearly, lesson number one is, yes, you need localized websites. Now, the next question we frequently get is, okay, now I've got my localized website, I've got my in-country website. Do I absolutely have to have the same, can I have the same marketing strategy for my international as my domestic? Do I have to have different ones?
No. The globalization, it doesn't mean harmonization or across the different markets. When we're looking at building a marketing strategy with our clients, and we take into account what the differences are in the different markets, and that does change if you're looking at sort of South America, but particularly if you're looking at Europe, then we are a patchwork of different countries here. We take into account things like language, but also and especially culture. Culture in the different countries does make a big difference. And also something like technology. If we're looking at North Africa or Southern Africa, then mobile technology is very important, and that does change how your strategy works. If you're looking at the Far East, then there's a whole different thinking behind that. So in short, globalization isn't a homogenization of the strategies. We also need to look at recognizing the uniqueness of the different clients and the different customers. One of the things that I will keep on saying is about building trust. If you're going into a new market or you're competing against local competitors, why should someone trust you? It's about a long-term business plan and a long-term relationship.
Thank you, Michael. That's very clear then. So lesson number one, I need a local website. Lesson number two, I need a succinct, specific, dedicated marketing strategy. Okay, now if I were to ask you, Michael, give me a shopping list of the minimum things that I need on my website to start off this whole marketing strategy, what would it have to be?
Okay, the two things that we have listed here, which for me are the essential starting points. One is to make sure it is clear to the visitors and to your customers that you can actually deliver into that local market. And that does mean having your language translations for your terms and conditions, which might well be different from your home market. How are you going to deliver it? How are you going to handle inquiries? If you were on the webinar a couple of weeks ago, you would have heard about the different payment facilities in Germany, which are very different from those in the US. So having that sort of level of trust built into your website, ensuring it's clear to any visitor that you can deliver, you're serious about it. And one of the simplest ways might be to have your local agent's address and contact details. Once you have that, then really looking at your marketing plan and deciding how to build that out. In many ways, some of the principles are similar to your home market, but in many cases, building and establishing your marketing plan for the local overseas markets means that you need to add extra time in there. It takes time to build up your brand. It takes time to build up that trust, so you need to allow for it. You also need to look at the different platforms that we're going to be talking about later and which ones are appropriate for the different countries. And don't forget, language translations do take time and are a commitment.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. So all very clear on that. Well, before we let Michael go through all the details of designing an international digital strategy, there were a couple of sort of myth busters, we're going to call them, that I wanted to run through. And these are really they might seem to be sort of obvious, but I think they're worth looking at nonetheless. And what Michael was talking about earlier in terms of sort of local websites and things like localized websites, it basically comes down to the fact that not all Googles are created equal. In fact, Google might have a huge market share, 90% in Europe, 97% in India, but 3% in China. So, you have to make sure you're on the right search engine. And even within countries that you think would be similar, Google US, for example, is very different from Google UK. So if the Google and the search engines are market specific, then your search engine optimization has to be market specific as well. So that gets back to what Michael was saying, a dedicated strategy. And finally, I guess the other point on that we wanted to really to put out right in the beginning is that in today's world, in 2016, social media is just got to be part of any serious marketing strategy right from the very beginning. So it's an integrated part of your strategy across your export markets, particularly in your export markets, I would say. There were also two of those prerequisites that we wanted to highlight again. And the first, as we were saying, SEO, search engine optimization, is different in each market. And we have found that the key, if I put it down to one word, the key to getting found is local. If you have the right local keywords, that's how you're going to be found. But it also means that you've got to go much more than translating words. You have to reach quite deep inside a website and translate the URLs, the country-specific keywords in the metadata, the page text, the technical SEO, and the HTML. All of that has to be translated as well. So it's not a simple cut and paste job either. And that's important to realize when you start looking at your major localized websites. And the other point which we come across very frequently is right from the start. This gets back to what Michael said in terms of getting ready. You need to make sure that your terms and conditions apply to the relevant market. Do not assume that just because you're compliant in the US or in your domestic market that you are for any neighboring market. even Canada and USA have different terms and conditions necessary. And we like, we frequently find as well that if we highlight and push out that our client, on the website, we'll put in bold letters, market compliant online, you've got the right cookie policy, compliant in terms of payment, whatever it is, that is also a great way to build trust.
Susanna, thank you for that. That's very, it brings me to the next poll. So please, is everybody ready? That e-commerce and e-shop, well, that's certainly one of the things that we know people are asking about. So I'm about to launch another poll directly linked to that. Here we go, launch. Please, there you go. Folks, tell us, do your home and export websites support e-commerce? Are you into e-commerce? Are you big time on e-commerce? What do you think of e-commerce? Yes, it's all of them. Yes, selectively, for example, e-commerce or one or two sites, or no, not at all. Or are you thinking about it? So let me give you some feedback. The majority are saying to us, yes, selectively. There are more people, yes, selectively. So it seems as though they've got some e-commerce on some sites and not others. 30% are saying no, and 20% are thinking about it. So there we go. It's a very interesting cross-section. By the way, do know these polls and this information will be made available to you at the end of the week. Look out for it. I'm going to close this poll. Thank you so much, and I'm handing back to Susanna.
Thanks, John. An interesting poll there. Now, getting down to Michael and some of the keys. Where do you start, Michael? Do you start, I presume, in setting your goals? Is that correct? Is that the right place to start?
Absolutely. Goals and timelines are really the first part to build out your marketing plan for the export markets. And the top level goal, of course, is always how to grow your exports and what sort of return on your investment and actually your sales in those different markets are going to be. But even, let's just say we're looking at Europe by itself, then you could have a different marketing strategy for one country in Europe. If you already have, let's say, a sales base there, you might want to be marketing to generate direct sales via your e-commerce website. Alternatively, you might be looking at a different marketing strategy for a second country to build up your distributors and what you're going to be doing about sort of building up your brand awareness in there. So the first understanding is really how are your goals going to differ by market. Here we've listed also a number of goals, and many of you will say, well, actually that's very similar to the goals that I have in my domestic market. But when we look at them on the international side, then the key ones that I sort of pick out are really how are we accessing the new markets? What are the most effective ways into that? What are the channels that are working most? Which search engines or social media are the best ones? Qualifying the leads is also very important. Again, if you're getting a lot of inquiries, you might, in your home market, have a good flow, and it doesn't matter that half the leads are not good and are not interesting potentials. Whereas in your export markets, every qualified lead counts. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Also, coming back to distributors, then one of the strategies for building up distributors is really how they can find you, and we have a slide on that in a moment. But
Michael, can I jump in there again? Me and my polls, that was very interesting. And so I'm glad you're talking about leads and sales. I certainly know that when we're talking to our clients and working with them on a day-to-day basis, a lot of it is all about leads and how do you get those international leads on board and how do you convert them to sales. So that is a perfect time to say, here, look, let's launch this one. I'm going to launch yet another poll, so please stick with me as we go for it. And there we go. It is becoming clear from this presentation that knowledge and understanding of international digital expertise is required. So please, what are your thoughts? Do you have international digital marketing for exporting expertise? What's your view on it? Do you have this yes in-house, a yes outsource, somebody's doing it? No? Are you thinking about it? What are your thoughts? let me give you some feedback from what people are telling me here. So 17% are saying yes, they have in-house, 5% saying yes, they've thought about that it's outsourced, 43% are saying no, and 30% are saying they're thinking about it. That's very interesting. There you go. There certainly is a majority that are saying no and thinking about it. Well, I think, please, the takeaway from this poll is let's have a deep look at that. Let's make that happen. I'm closing this poll and I'm thanking you again. Michael.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to say one final thing on this slide. Building the brand is one of the other important things to measure. So as you look at how you're doing in your export markets, then the brand awareness is the final point I'd like to just highlight.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so now you've put out your goals and got your timeline all sorted out. Now let's say like many of our clients, let's say that one of your core goals is to generate new leads. Now, how would you go about that?
Yeah, really it's about making the marketing work, and to do that you have to have the resources to do so. You need to have the bait to attract people, both through the the marketing messages you might be putting out through the social media, but also the resources you have on your website. So think about what the key messages you want to have. What are the right resources you want to have on the sites or in the marketing, and really get those fine-tuned and appropriate for the different markets. Use the languages, but be careful when you're doing sort of translations. You have to make sure that they are not just a straight translation, but really a good optimized and local one. We find that we build onto the international websites many more calls to action on the pages, particularly product pages. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to fill out a form and contact you. One of the sort of reasons behind that is you might be in a completely different time zone. It's not possible for a potential client to pick up the phone and give you a call. So when you're building out your sites, think of where your calls to action are, and when you're driving people to those pages through the social media, focus on them. Also, if you're using email campaigns, then again try and have separate ones for different countries. Again, time zones are important here. Understand when the best time is for you to send out your email. Very similar to, I'm sure, in your home market, but we do find with the ones that we send out that if we are targeting people, then using, depending if they're going to open it on their mobile phones or on the desktops, then the time of day is actually very important for the success. Of the different forms of measuring, then the one that I really want to just highlight here is the conversion rates for your online marketing campaigns, particularly when you're starting to do it in a new channel. For example, if we're looking at something like Facebook, we do get very different results across Europe as to which Facebook works best in each country. So measure your campaigns and look at the marketing rates. Finally, the one sort of special note to have here is if you do have a local distributor in your target countries, one of the things that you can't measure but is very important to knowing how successful your campaigns are is if you're driving people to your website and then they're going to your local distributor to place the order. You might never see that. You might not know that it has been generated through your activities. So what we recommend is that you do actually track how people are leaving your site, where they're going, and if they're going off to your distributor's website, and follow that as one of your metrics.
Thank you very much, Michael. Okay, so let's say now you've generated these new contacts, you've got these contact details, and I've really taken away from this that I need good bait, lots of calls to action, and very specific, country-specific email campaigns. Now I've got all that, so the next step must be surely, how do you convert this? How do you convert those leads into real sales?
Okay. It comes down to the quality of leads. I did mention that earlier, that really in your export markets you have to pay particular attention to those. With something like scorecards for the qualifying leads, then these could be very different from the ones that you have in your home markets. With the tracking codes, then we use different sets of traffic tracking codes on the different localized websites. So we would be able to measure independently how the sites are performing, what they're doing, and actually which pages are working best. We also, again, measure the marketing channels. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we get a very better engagement rate in places like Spain and Italy than we do in Germany or in the UK or even in the US. People's culture does make a difference as to which channels work best for them. With monitoring the number of source qualified leads, then that is a key measurement as far as I'm concerned. One of the other things that you need to really be aware of if you are using e-commerce platforms is that your dropout rates, particularly on something like the point where you have the shipping costs or the payment methods, we often see those as being places where people drop out much more so on the international side than on the domestic side, because something like the shipping cost might be prohibitive. So you need to understand how you're going to deal with that. So really, if you're looking at e-commerce, the two that make a big difference are the cost of shipping and the payment methods. They're your key to success.
Thank you, Michael. Very interesting, and a clear, again, I'm getting a lot of messages about a lot of summary conclusions about how to be very specific per market on these things. One of the other major things that our clients ask us to do in terms of their local websites is using their website to engage and find more partners in their export markets. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, Susanna, I know this sounds absolutely obvious, but it is something that we often see people not doing, is you have to tell people that you're looking for a distributor. And the easiest way to do that is to have on your website a dedicated distributor page, listing on there the type of distributors you want and giving them information about that, and easily a form that can be filled out. With the marketing, again, look at the channels that you want to be marketing in to promote that distributor search. Again, just coming back to something like LinkedIn, I would use LinkedIn for that distribution search or posting into the right groups. Facebook for me wouldn't be the right channel. But if you're looking at Germany or France, then they do have the local versions, and of course China is a completely different story. So use the business-to-business networks, tell people that you are looking for a distributor, but very importantly, have a distributor page that they can go to. And at the end of the day, if you are marketing yourself well, if you have a good optimized website, the best distributors are always looking for new good products, and you should get inbound inquiries from them.
Thanks, Michael. I just wondered, do you have any case studies on this? Do you have any practical, case studies you could lend us?
Yes, actually, I was in Germany visiting one of our clients last week, and they're a US client who had come over for a trade show, and the feedback from US commercial services was that because they had a German website and a clear page on how the type of distributor they wanted, then it was 3 times more effective. They had 3 times more meetings arranged, which were arranged by US commercial services, 3 times more than anyone else on that trip, because they had made that effort. And also they were able to point to their local marketing efforts in those meetings and show that they were committed to the German market. And I know that they have come away with a number of good distributors signed up from that trade mission.
Good. Good to hear that.
Mike, can I jump in there? Can I mean, I had an interesting experience in talking about social media coming up for trade fairs, and the companies that were doing localized social media, actually, guess what, again in Germany, and they were doing social media in preparation and during the trade fair. And they said compared to their previous year, they were 100% up in terms of the meetings and the level of the meetings that they had. So perhaps, sorry about that, there was just another little anecdote from me.
Thank you, John.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, talking about distributors. One of the key things is all this, digital marketing for exporting. It sounds like a lot of work. Can't we just hand this off, the whole thing, the whole package? If I've got a distributor in Germany, why can't he do all this work?
Yeah, if you want to hand over your business to someone else and give them complete control of it, and then you can do, but that is not really the way to build up your long-term success. If you have a falling out with your distributor, then you lose that business and you lose that market. So we always look to ensure that you're building up your branding, you have your company information there on the sites, good references and referrals, and all your certification in place. Then it doesn't matter if your distributor walks away or if you have a falling out with them. The distributor is there to build their business, and they could well be working for your competitors as well. So own your brand, own your space, make the distributors depend on you. If you're working hard and sending them lots of leads, then they will depend on you. So building trust and building credibility is, for me, one of the core and important things that you have to remember.
Thank you, Michael.
Can I jump in there and make another observation about that? I heard some companies saying that when working with distributors had the localized URL for their business, and that had created problems for them in the long term. I don't know, Michael, do you have a comment?
Yes, it's not unusual that in some of the countries, Australia, you have to have specific requirements to meet the criteria to buy a URL. Likewise in Europe. So in many cases, if you don't qualify, you depend on your distributor to buy it. But then if that relationship heads south, then you aren't able to manage the situation. You lose that URL and could be losing revenue.
Right. Yes, we do come across that and have ways of circumventing that as well. Michael, I wanted to ask you next, sort of, okay, I've now understood I do actually have to do the work. So, it really comes down to, quite simply, where on earth do I start? Where do I start on this international social media stuff?
Yeah, that's a very big question, and I'm sure that's one of the key reasons people are on this is to understand which are the different social media channels to use. Because we are talking to quite a diverse audience here, then I'll keep it relatively top level. First of all, you need to identify your social media networks and see which ones are going to work in the different markets. Susanna, you mentioned earlier with the search engines that in Europe, Google is 96-97% penetration. In China, it is only about 3%. So do look at your markets, do understand which are the dominant channels, social media channels you're going to work with. But my advice here is to be realistic in allocating your time to which channels. Pick the ones that you think you will be most effective with. One of the big hurdles here, of course, is generating the content to post on them in the local language. And there's often a hidden cost here in the translation of translation fee costs. It's okay to, if you've built out your marketing plan, then for me it is certainly okay to recycle posts, to use them again every few months. We work with a sort of process where we use the marketing messages, let's say on Facebook, we might reuse them and reapply them on a different channel a few months later. So be careful, particularly on the translation costs. Many companies don't have the ability to do that. With the results, then the two things here that we look at, the engagement rates that we're getting. Often we get a much higher engagement rate than we see traffic to the website. So when we're reporting, or when you're reporting back internally, then do report on that as well. The engagement rate is an important factor. One of the other things is the cost per country when you're doing paid marketing, and that and just thinking of a campaign we're running this week for a client, same message across 3 different countries. We're paying 5 cents a click in one country, we're paying 15 cents a click in a second country, and nearly 30 cents a click in the third country. And they're all 3 countries sitting next to each other, targeting the same type of people and the same interest groups. So what's your return on investment? See which channels work best for you and concentrate on those to start with.
Thank you, Michael. I know also you wanted us to show a couple of the different ones, even in neighboring countries. So you listed some of these ones, the difference between France and Germany.
Yes, because I'm sitting in France, and I picked these ones for us to have a quick look at. So these are business-to-business networks and how they're used. I know in the US people are sometimes surprised that we say Facebook is a business-to-business tool, but it really is here in Europe. If we're looking at LinkedIn, which I'm sure most of you will be familiar with, then in Germany our local equivalent to that is Xing. If you want to be posting directly into German language groups, then Xing will be the way to go. But in my view, it is not as broad as or as wide as LinkedIn. The French version of that is Viadio, which again is a relatively baby brother, but it does have a reasonable amount of market penetration. So watch your channels, see which ones work for you. With LinkedIn, then one of the questions we often get is that the groups are only English language groups, and in many cases that is fine. But if you do find a group that is targeting Europe as a whole, then it's quite acceptable to post into that group language, multilingual posts in there, and not just English language ones.
Michael, can I jump in related to that for my final poll here directly on the subject? So I'm going to launch this, and I see time is running ahead of us. So here we go. Here's launch on this. Are you using international social media to support your exports? So are you going out there thoughtfully, looking at those markets and saying yes to international use of social media successfully? Yikes, it's actually difficult. No, it's too difficult. I'm not going to do anything about it. Or are you thinking about it? So let me give you feedback. 50% are saying no. 50% are saying no, we're not on this at all. 20% are thinking about it. And actually 20% are saying yes with difficulty. What's nice to know, 10% are out there saying they're doing it well. So congratulations to you all. I'm shutting this poll. Moving on quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, I wanted just to move along. One of the final things that you always talk about, I know very much, is measuring it. And if you could just give a quick, brief view on how do you measure your digital marketing on international?
Yes, Susanna, I am very passionate about measuring it. This is the way that you actually see how successful you're doing, how you can adapt and change it. Everyone is using Google Analytics, and I'm a great fan of it, but there are other tools that can give you a lot of other information. Some of them we've listed here. The two that I'm particularly fond of is a system called Moz, which gives us the ability to look at the effectiveness of different keywords and page rankings in different search engines in different countries. So if you're not using that, please do have a look at that one. and another system which is Clicky, which those who use Clicky say it looks quite basic, but it is very effective at helping to understand how your website is performing. One of the beauties of it is you can actually trace an individual person, how they've gone through the site, where they fall off, and where your problems are.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, we're going to wrap up now with just a couple of things before we get to the questions, sort of just summarizing some of the things that Michael's been talking about. One of the things we're often asked for is, when should I start? And obviously the answer is, well, as soon as possible. But a lot of our clients also use specific events, like a new product launch or opening a new office, or even going to an important trade fair as a catalyst to get them started on the international website localization and marketing process. So John already talked about the effects where he said, the 100% increase in efficiency once you have a localized website. And here, the 40% one that I've had is from another client. From 1 year to the next with a localized website, he had 40% more leads. So that's less spectacular than John's, but still a good success. And then just a little tip from us, we would definitely encourage you, if you have a major trade show that you go to regularly, well then I think you should own the space, make it part of your full-time website. And that way you'll be able to engage and link up with the leads that you make throughout the year. Then just sort of in summary, for us it's really go global with website localization, using your localized websites as a platform, a fundamental platform for digital marketing, as Michael has been outlining, to build up your brand, your credibility, and centralize your marketing and distributors' resources all in one place that you control, which is great. So without further ado, I hope we have a little bit of time left for questions. John, have any questions come in?
They certainly have, actually, loads. I think in view of time, we're going to try and field this very, very quickly. But jumping on them, Michael, what about paid advertising? What about paid? We haven't really dived into that quickly. Do you have a response to that?
Yeah, a couple of answers on that one. Paid advertising is very useful tactical tool. It should be part of your marketing mix. Watch out for the cost of it. It does ramp up very quickly, but for me the downside of it is it doesn't build up your long-term brand awareness or your long-term value. You switch it off and your visibility disappears. So part of the mix, but certainly don't rely on it.
Thank you very much. There is a question here which is about URLs, actually. It says, can IBT help me secure URLs?
We can in the European markets because we meet the qualifications. Many of the US companies we work with don't, so we can help you with that. Somewhere like Australia, then we are not able to at the moment.
Thank you very much. A question, how frequently do I need to change the content of the websites?
Like your home market, you need to keep it fresh, you need to keep it interesting. Make sure the top level pages are reviewed and updated as needed. As you develop your marketing and your brand presence in the new markets, then make sure you adjust the content. So do work on it.
Okay, I like it, thanks. And I propose to go for one final one, which is what is the one thing not to do on an international website? I like that. Okay, what do you not do?
Don't start something you're not prepared to finish is the answer. The biggest failing we often see is when someone builds an international website, then they might put a blog or a news section on there, but it very quickly gets crippled because of things like translation costs or dependent on maybe your distributor writing content for it. So be very conscious of not trying to start something that is going to be a burden for you.
I suppose that is the obvious. The one that I was thinking about was not to use Google Translate. I've always thought that was the worst one.
I'd hoped everyone on this audience had moved beyond that, John.
Okay, right. Well, look, that one, in that case, look, it's time to close down. Mindful of the time, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for participating today. For you all, we hope you've enjoyed the webinar. We hope that you found all of that information useful, and there are lots of takeaways to help you grow your exports and business internationally. Do know that, of course, that this will be sent to you on Friday, so watch out for it in your inbox. There will be an email with links to the landing page when this has gone through a process of curation, which takes us generally about a day or two. I would like to remind you, by the way, do remember that this is one in a series to help you grow your business internationally, and so why not join us again in a few weeks. Be aware that on the 29th of March, we're going to be diving into Hannover Messe. Hannover Messe is going to be one of the big trade fairs in 2016. It's the world's leading trade fair for industrial technology. We're very proud to be inviting and having with us the President and CEO of Hannover Trade Fairs USA, Larry Turner. Larry will be with us and talking all about Hannover Messe. And actually, there's going to be a whole link there to social media and websites around it. So we're very excited about that and hope you can join us. So please, you will now get the questionnaire survey on your screen when I shut this down. Do take a minute, please respond. It'll help us to do an increasingly good job each time for our webinars. And Susanna, I want to thank you very much there in London. And Michael in Paris, again, thank you so much for this. What a great job you've done. Bravo, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for attending. It's great.
Have fun exporting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.